Do you want to learn HTML and build your first web page in just 10 minutes? Then this video is for you. What is HTML? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the standard language used to create and structure web pages. In simple words, HTML is the skeleton of a website. Just like our body needs bones for structure, a website needs HTML to organize its content. What does HTML do? HTML tells the browser what is a heading, what is a paragraph, where to show images, how to create links, how the layout of the page should look. Headings, used to define titles or headings. H1 is the biggest heading. Paragraphs, used to write normal text. Images, used to display images on a web page. Links, used to create clickable links. Layout of page. HTML also helps arrange sections, divisions, structure of the web page. HTML syntax, introduction. In this image, you can see how HTML elements work in a simple structure. Think of HTML like building blocks. Each block is called an element. In the image, the first block is main heading, H1 element. Next block is paragraph, P element. Last block is button, button element. The image shows a flow, main heading, paragraph, button. This means first comes the title, then the content, then an action, button. This is how real websites are structured. How to add heading in HTML. This image is about adding headings in HTML, which are used as titles on a web page. Think of headings like chapter titles in a book. They help organize content and make it easy to read. HTML element. This image explains one of the most important concepts in HTML. Let's understand HTML elements in a super simple way. Every web page you see is built using something called HTML elements. Together, they form a complete block that tells the browser how to display content. An HTML element has three parts: a start tag, content, and an end tag. First, we have the start tag. It tells the browser where the element begins. Second, we have the content. This is the actual text or information you want to display on the web page. Third, we have the end tag. It tells the browser where the element ends. So basically, start tag plus content plus end tag equals one complete HTML element. Simple, right? Once you understand this, you've taken your first step into web development. Now, let's understand an important concept in programming: breaking things down into small parts. When you build a website or an app, don't try to do everything at once. Instead, divide it into smaller pieces. Start with one small part. For example, first, you can add an image. Then, write a heading. Next, add a paragraph. And finally, create a button. After writing each part, make sure to test your output. This helps you find mistakes early and fix them quickly. Once that part is done, move to the next one and repeat the same process. Step by step, your full project will be ready. This method makes coding easier, faster, and less confusing, especially for beginners. Now let's see how HTML elements come together to build a real web page. Every web page is made up of different parts. First, we have the main heading, also called H1. This is the title of your page, like "Plan your next adventure." Next, we add an image. This makes the page more attractive and visually engaging. Then comes the paragraph. This is where you write some information, like describing tourism or a travel idea. And finally, we add a button. For example, a Get Started button that users can click. So basically, heading, image, paragraph, and button, all these are HTML elements working together. When you combine these small elements, you create a complete and beautiful web page. That's how simple websites are built step by step. Now let's understand the most important heading in HTML. The main heading, also called the H1 tag. In HTML, headings are used to give titles to your content. And H1 is the biggest and most important heading on a web page. Let's look at an example. We write start tag H1 content, tourism, end tag /H1. Here, how it works. The start tag, H1, tells the browser that a heading is starting. The content, tourism, is the text that will be displayed on the screen. And the end tag tells the browser that the heading has ended. So together, start tag plus content plus end tag equals one complete heading element. This heading will appear big and bold on your web page. And that's how you create a main heading using HTML. Let's understand how to add a main heading in HTML in the easiest way possible. In HTML, headings are created using special tags called heading tags. The most important one is the opening tag. Here, inside the body section, we write less than H1 greater than tourism less than /H1 greater than. What does this do? It tells the browser to display the word tourism as a big, bold heading on the web page. Think of H1 as the title of your page, just like a book title. It grabs attention and tells users what the page is about. Once you save and run this code, you'll see the output on the right side, a clean and clear heading tourism. And that's how you add a main heading in HTML, simple and powerful. Now let's learn how to add a paragraph in HTML. Super easy and very important. Let's break this down step by step. First, we have the start tag. This tells the browser, hey, a paragraph is starting here. Next comes the content. This is the actual text you want to display. For example, plan your trip wherever you want to go. Finally, we have the end tag. This tells the browser the paragraph ends here. So together, it forms a complete paragraph element. Once you run this code, the browser will display your text neatly as a paragraph. And that's it. You've just learned how to add paragraphs in HTML. Now let's take it one step further and add a paragraph to our previous HTML code. Earlier, we created a main heading using the heading tag. Now, we're adding more information below it using a paragraph. Inside the body tag, after the heading, we write opening tag P content, plan your trip wherever you want to go, closing tag P. So what's happening here? First, the heading tag displays the main title tourism. Then, the paragraph tag adds a description or extra information below the heading. This is exactly how real websites are structured: a title first, followed by content. When you run this code, the browser shows a big heading tourism and just below it, a paragraph with your text. Now let's learn how to add a button in HTML, one of the most useful elements for any website. Buttons are used for actions like get started, submit, or click me. In HTML, we create a button using the button tag. Here's the basic syntax. Let's break it down. First, we have the start tag. This tells the browser that a button is starting. Next is the button text. This is what users will see on the button. In this example, it's get started. Finally, we have the end tag. This tells the browser that the button ends here. When you run this code, the browser will display a clickable button with the text get started. How to add a button to the web page using HTML. It's super easy, so let's dive in. First, we have a heading that says tourism. This is what appears at the top of your page. Right below that, we add a paragraph with some text that says, plan your trip wherever you want to go. Now let's make it interactive. We're going to add a button with the HTML code. Opening button tag content, get started, closing button tag. When you type this out in your code, it'll create a clickable button that looks just like the one here, saying, get started. That's it. It's a super simple way to make your web page more interactive. And that wraps up our introduction to HTML. Before you go, let's quickly recap the key takeaways from this video. First, we learned about HTML syntax, the rules that make up the language. Then, we covered the HTML basic structure, which is the foundation for every web page you create. And finally, We explored HTML elements like heading for your titles, paragraph for adding text, and button for making things interactive. These are the building blocks you'll use to create awesome websites. Keep practicing, and before you know it, you'll be an HTML pro. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more web development tips. See you in the next video.